is the Media Talk Show series with me at JBC at Detunji. On this platform, it's all about peer and veteran learning for anyone looking to make the best of their career as broadcasters, as journalists, whether in the traditional or content creator, as it were. That is where we have found ourselves. So anyone looking to, be fulfilled and do so much more for themselves and not just roll with the old ways of doing things, learning from the old and the new and, bridging the gap. And every time I bring someone new on this show, today I'm so excited about the guest that I was able to nab, and she graciously agreed to be here. I used to just, follow her quietly on LinkedIn, learning from her wealth of experience, admiring her. She incidentally celebrated her 70th birthday last year, 2024. And it was so nice watching everyone celebrate what this icon in the broadcast industry has been able to do. For me, what I like about her is her ability to, hold the candle out for others coming up, to see. And that is something that drew me to her. And when I approached her to have her as guest, I thought maybe, she doesn't know me from anywhere. Will she agree to come? But again, I believe in just stepping forward, and here we are. Before I introduce her and roll out and reel out, all about her and what she's done, I'd like to warmly welcome Mrs. Bimbo Oloyede to the program.
Thank you very much, BC. Thank you for inviting me. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you so much, Ma. And right about now, let me just roll away with a bit of our guest, Mrs. Bimbo Oloyede. As you all know, she is a veteran TV journalist, a dame in the Nigerian broadcasting industry with over 40 years of experience as an anchor, host, master of ceremony, actor, teacher, and public speaking coach. Mrs. Oloyede cut her teeth in broadcasting in the then Nigerian Broadcasting Corporation, NBC, later recognized as the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, as we all know it. She became the first female TV network newscaster in Nigeria from 1976 to 1980. I was actually 1 year old back then in 1976 when she started. She later left NTA to co-found a media company with her husband. Mrs. Oloyede is passionate about equipping women and girls, and therefore she went ahead to found an NGO, the Women Optimum Development Foundation. What if? He is also an author and has written 2 books on strictly speaking, an oral guide for schools and colleges, and pronunciation made easy. And very recently, she authored the book titled Command Your Stage. And of course, I got a copy of the book Command Your Stage. And I tell you, like I said in the post, I am going to be sipping, and drinking this book gradually. I was reading it. I've been reading it. I've read a few pages, a few chapters, and I tell you, it is really, really loaded. We'll get to it as we go along in this discussion. But first of all, let's just kickstart the conversation with Mrs. Bimbo Oloyede. You're welcome again, ma.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah. To start right away with my question, you started your journey as a broadcast journalist in 1976. Am I correct?
Actually, yes, you're correct as far as the journalism aspect is concerned. But I was actually employed in September 1975 because I was an assistant producer in the drama department at NBC TV. So I later became a news anchor.
Oh, fantastic. So I wanted to ask you, what inspired you to, join the media industry, the media space? Is it something that you had always wanted to do? Because I noticed you studied arts and drama in London. So
Mm.
was media in the works for you? Was it something you had always wanted to do? What inspired you to join the space?
To be honest, I never really gave the media, quote unquote, I never gave it much of a thought. I had been more interested in live performances, in acting, in stage management, that side of it. But when I came back to Nigeria and I was looking for a job, I went to NT. Well, then it wasn't NTA, but let's call it NTA. That's where I went. One of the places I went to look for a job, and when they went through my CV, they said, "Oh, you could help us with production." So that's actually how I came in. But what I was doing at that point was drama. I was helping to produce drama programs. So the idea of being a broadcast journalist per se never actually came into my mind. It happened quite by accident.
Yeah, really nice. And look how far you have come. And
Well,
in your journey, in your journey working as a broadcast journalist, um, would you mind sharing a bit of what it was like for you? There's these rudiments of being mentored, trained before you get behind the camera or the microphone. So what was it like for you?
I think my journey was a bit different because I had training when I was at secondary school. I'd had training in elocution, and not just elocution, but drama as well. So when I joined the NBC TV, as it was then, we didn't really have that much to do with the presentation department unless you happened to be a presenter, and I wasn't. But as I said, accidentally I found myself in front of the camera, and at the time I didn't know that the management was planning to have a new format for the news, that it was going to go network, and that it was going to involve women as well. So because I was actually performing poetry, so they heard me speak and said, I suppose they said to themselves, well, aren't we looking for somebody who can speak? Why
Yeah.
not why? So that's actually how I got into the newsroom. But even then, at that point, I was in the presentation department for about a year, until when NTA was fully established. Then it was decided that if you were going to be a newscaster, you needed to be in the news department. So eventually, I was transferred to the newsroom, and I was there working as an editorial assistant as well as anchoring the news.
Really interesting, really interesting, and it's so heartwarming to find out that it was in your day and time that women actually got to the network, to become network news readers, newscasters on television. What would you say is different about broadcasting in your day and what we have now? What could be different? What can the young generation, those of us that are in this space, and those coming after us, what could we possibly learn from the past that we are probably dropping, and not making use of as we go forward?
I think the main difference would be in the type of training that we received. The training, the monitoring, the evaluation of our work. It was done on a consistent basis every week in my day. I'm not quite sure how much of monitoring takes place now. I know in some stations they're particular, but in quite a lot of stations, from my observation of the presenters and the way they speak, possibly that kind of that kind of concentration is not that kind of attention. Let me use that word, is not paid to the way that presenters speak, pronounce words, pronounce names,
Yeah.
even to some degree dressing. So
Mm.
I would say that the degree of monitoring that we had in those days is a far cry from what is happening now. That
So
would be
would you
one of the
say,
major differences.
yeah, so would you say that the industry is getting better, is improving, or we've really gone back? What is working now and what could be better, really?
Well, I think the way to answer this question is that progress is relative. Where we are now is that we have many, many more stations, many more TV, radio stations, many more programs, online, on YouTube, podcasts, etc., etc. So there are many more people that are actually actively involved in the industry. So that is progress. The question is the standards that we knew, how much of those standards are being sustained? How many of those standards have actually been established in the stations that are operative now? And if they have been established, what are the stations doing to maintain those standards and principles? So that's why I say that progress is relative. Of course, we have many more different types of programs. In fact, if you look around the world, virtually anything and any subject has been turned into one type of TV program or online program.
Yes, yes,
People are certainly much more creative now than they were in at the time when I started, when we started. So there's more creativity in terms of topics, in
yeah,
terms of maybe the approach to these various topics. But then if you also look at the fact that in those days, the kind of equipment that we had was very limited, and yet
yes,
we came out with good programs, good content. So
yes.
now the question would be, are people more creative now, or were we more creative then? Because we did more with less. Now, the question is, are we doing less with more? I'm not
Mm.
sure.
True,
Might be a
true.
debate for another time.
Yeah.
But there
Are
is
we
progress.
doing
There's no doubt about that.
are we doing less with more? I'm writing that down. That's a very big question. Are we doing less with more? Because we certainly have more tools. Talk about what technology has handed to us now. Everybody is a content creator, and even the traditional media, it's a convergence now. Radio is no longer just a listening platform; it's also
Right.
visual because there are social media, TV,
Yeah.
newspaper. Everybody, there's a convergence.
Mm.
And it's interesting. I really hope that someone watching and listening to this conversation will seriously give thought to, am I doing less with more that is available in the 21st century as a broadcast journalist, or print journalist, or a content creator, as it were? Now, moving on in my question, you worked in NTA. I worked in Radio Nigeria as well. I cut my teeth on radio, in broadcasting on radio. And there's that thing about, once it's a government-owned media organization, people tend to, put in more years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, and some retire at 35 years or 60 years old. And I noticed that in your journey, you didn't quite even get to 10 years. You stepped out quite early. Now, I'm curious as to why you are still doing media, but why did you quickly step out of the medium, the space? Was it because your dream was bigger than where you were, the platform where you were? What was your reason for moving out quite early?
Basically, I think my reason was that, we were under a military regime.
Yeah.
And I felt we were not being perfectly honest with the news, the
Mm,
content of the news.
of
There
the
was a
news.
time when, yes, there was a time when we really were giving it our best shot. But then at a point, it seemed that the content became watered down somehow.
Mm,
And
mm,
I was not convinced that I could convince the the audience that
yeah.
I meant what I was saying. I knew sometimes that the information was somehow
Doctored.
not doctored, but maybe it's somehow watered down. We were not. It's not that we were not telling the truth, but we sort of we wrote it in a way that would not offend. It would not offend anybody, and
Mm,
and that's not the purpose of the news. The news is to give out the information as it is, and then allow people to come to their own conclusions, having given them the information, and given them complete information with all sides of the story. I wasn't convinced that we were doing that. And I was, as I said, I was also not convinced that I could convey the story or the information in a credible way. And so I decided it was time for me to leave.
interesting. Interesting. I would always say that, in the industry, you have got to have some values, the ethics of the profession, what we should be doing. We should actually be making the impact as it's where, as it's supposed to, ought to be in the profession. And if you weren't convinced that you were making the kind of impact that you should, then I think it was a brave thing for you to have stepped out, of the system. People will have different reasons for stepping out. I wanted more. I felt I had given my everything, and I asked myself, what's more? What is there anything else to this job? And that was how I stepped out into the development space, development work, still doing media and communications as well. Now, which brings me down to this question. Yes, you stepped out. You were not afraid to step out. And yet you have made a mark for yourself in the profession and in the field as a presenter, public speaker, and even a coach. You have owned your stage and your space, like you said in your latest book. And so that brings me to the question: how can we own our stage, like in a brief way of saying it, own our stage and space? A lot of people are just, what's the word? You're just existing, going with the motion, particularly in this our profession. How can we own our stage and our space?
I think it is down to your personal interest.
Okay.
Are you doing the job because it is a job that you can do, or because it's a job that was given to you or handed over to you? Or are you doing the job because you believe in it, because you have a passion for it, because you think it's important that information needs to be passed across? Is that why you're doing the job? Do you believe in yourself and the goals that you have drawn up for yourself? Can they be
Mhm.
realized within the space
Yeah.
within which you find yourself? Um, is it do you think what you're doing is a noble thing? Do you think that you have some added value to bring to the job that you're doing? Do you think you can make impact in one way or another, doing this job? Because if you don't have personal confidence in what
Yeah.
you're doing and in yourself, if you don't have the integrity to go all the way with it, if you cannot if you cannot give a credible performance, especially considering that we are in the media space, then you probably shouldn't be there. So even if you have all these things, you're passionate, etc., but perhaps you have a larger or a slightly different picture, bigger picture for yourself.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that whilst you're within this space, you will not make the best use of it in terms of the performance that you give, in terms of the research that you do, in terms of, as I said earlier, the value that you add to it.
Yeah.
So you command your space if you think it is worth it to you. If you don't think it's worth it, if you think you're wasting your time, well, you may command it, but you may command it in a negative way.
All right.
Yeah. So you could be, instead of being, or how do I put it now? You could be infamous, for instance, instead of being quote unquote famous for the right reasons.
Yeah. May we not be famous for the wrong reasons.
Amen. That's a good prayer.
you, you know, it's so easy these days to go viral for either the right thing or the wrong thing, and then the wrong thing, take center stage, more. Interesting.
Yes.
So owning your space and your stage starts with you. If you
Yes.
believe in it, in yourself enough, if you value what you're doing, if you handle it with all sense of seriousness and give it your best shot. And then I love that fact, that idea of your integrity and honesty as well. It can become a very big stage and space for you and others.
Mm.
Interesting. Now let me come bringing it home to public speaking, as it were. That's your tough. And you've done a lot in terms of mentoring others, coaching others, and teaching others. And I find it very interesting that in your assignment as a public speaking coach, you have not only coached media professionals like myself, journalists, but you also coach business people, government functionaries, and anyone that takes the public, speaking space in whatever they are doing. So I want to, ask the question: what makes, of course you can't answer all of that all of whatever I'm asking here, but just to touch on them, this will take a class that we should pay for. you know Now I looked at your acronym talking about peace, to be a correct public speaker, that acronym of peace. And then you put in categories people that will engage in public speaking. What can make you a public speaker? It could be your passion, it could be your knowledge, it could be that you're a politician, it could be that you're a legal practitioner, a teacher, broadcasters. So many people can fill the public speaking space. Now, what makes for one to stand out as a great public speaker? That it is not just public speaking sounds like a word we are all throwing all over the place. What can actually make a person stand out? What are the basic necessities to help a person who is a public speaker stand out in whatever endeavor or field or area that they have to express in this capacity?
I would say the first thing would be preparation. You need to prepare thoroughly before coming out on the stage to make a presentation. I think the message is also important. What is it you want to say? Who are you speaking to? That is also important. What kind of audience are you actually going to engage with? Because that will determine maybe the style, maybe the topic, and the delivery. Delivery is also important. I think I think the language that is used and the way the words are pronounced is also important. But of course, there are things that you need to do to make it memorable, because that is what it's all about. At the end of the day, the objective is for you to make a presentation that people remember. So there must be things that are within that presentation that ensures memorability. Otherwise, you're wasting your time. All
Yeah,
the
yeah,
preparation and everything else would just be for nothing. If people sit down and you speak for 20 minutes, 25 minutes, and 1 hour later, nobody remembers what you've said.
yeah.
So it's important for you to be able to structure the presentation also in a way that aids that memorability.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think those are the key things that I would say.
Yeah, preparation, the message, your audience type, the language,
Mhm.
your clarity in the pronunciation of your words, delivery, and make it memorable. And I take example from something I read from your book, Command Your Stage, where you shared your experience, having to give a speech at the first lady of, I'm not sure if it is Lagos State. She launched a book talking about the years they served in office. And I find very interesting that analogy about a headline, assuming a headline comes out where all the first ladies and the president's wife, after being sworn in the following day, sues for divorce. And, that was just a fantastic draw in, you know, for the
There
audience.
was
Very funny.
silence, absolute silence in the hall. You could have heard a pin drop. You know, you the look on people's faces. They were wondering, what is this woman saying? Where
What
is
is
she
she
going
about?
with this? It
I,
was
I, I
uh, it was interesting.
Yeah, very. I totally loved it, and I'm taking a cue, and that's what I call the art of storytelling. One was at play, and the element of surprise, the something that is out of the ordinary was there, to draw
Mm.
them in. And I would say that as also, that also helped a lot in probably in your presentations or wherever you find yourself. I also think that one of the things I also learned from, your public speaking experience, that part where you talked about, you had an audience. Sometimes when you have a presentation and there's an inhibition, maybe the hall is not looking like, not friendly to engage between the speaker and the audience. And you said you actually asked that a wireless mic should be given to you. And you went, you came down and then went to where the audience that couldn't see you, and you went there and then it was just so beautiful. Would you want to share what should be our poise? What other things should we watch out for as public speakers when you have to engage an audience? Apart from the 7 things you've listed, what other things should we watch out for in terms of how to effectively engage our audience as public speakers?
I think again preparation comes in, because especially when you have a large audience, um, anything can happen. So you really need to be prepared for the unexpected. You need to
Yeah,
have extra extra material backup that will help you. It may not necessarily be exactly part of the topic that you are presenting, but it is somehow allied to it. So you are able to bring different aspects together. So if you are prepared, if you've thought about the presentation as a whole, and you are
yeah,
aware that it is possible for you to have some spaces here and there, what do you do as an MC, for instance? Or what do you
yeah,
do a presenter to fill those spaces? Then also, sometimes you find that you may have been given 20 minutes, 30 minutes. But
Yeah.
sometimes, because of a variety of different happenings, you're suddenly told, sorry, you've only got 10 minutes or you've only got
Mm.
15. What do you do? Because you've practiced, you've arranged your topics. So again, when you're preparing, you should make sure that you have a cut down version so that the points that you want to get across are there. They're included.
Nice. So preparation is always the foundational point, as a
Always.
public speaker. Expect the unexpected. I took that away and have a shorter version of your presentation because your 1 hour preparation can come down to to 20 minutes or 15 minutes depending on the event. Interesting. Now, I'll kind of come back to public speaking and why you wrote um, your book. But what I would like us to touch on now is what would be your advice for women in the media industry currently? What do you think we could do better? How do you think we can take on the space and stage as women in the profession?
The word professionalism is what comes to my mind. Um, Professionalism and currency. You never know when an opportunity might come your way. So you have to be prepared for it in case it comes your way suddenly.
Mm.
So I would say that women in the media should be first and foremost most interested in being professional and doing a professional job.
Yeah.
Be the best, at what you do. Basically, that would be number one. And number two, you need to have information. You need to be well read about a variety of things, a variety of different subjects and topics, because sometimes, especially as you rise, you also become a resource person.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you are invited, and those invitations at some point or other will come, you need to be ready to discuss a variety of topics. We are not all, and we can never all be expert at everything. In fact, nobody is expert
Sure.
at everything. But
Sure.
there should be some areas that you are pretty conversant with, so that even if they, call you up at 6 o'clock in the morning and say, please, we need you to be a resource person. We need you to come on the program live at 7 o'clock. This is what we're talking about. You have a basic knowledge that you can quickly brush up if you go to the internet and pick up a few things. But the basics of certain things, those areas that you have said you are interested in, that you have shown you have that you are competent to handle, then
Yeah.
you should make sure that you are pretty well informed about those areas and topics.
Yeah, I like your perspective to it. Professionalism, very, very important. And the idea that we will not all be good in everything, but whatever your own area of niche in the journey of self-discovery in the because I think we discover ourselves in the media. Some people are great presenters, some are great producers, some are able to bridge walk in between the two. But whatever area you found yourself, master it. And the idea about preparing for opportunities and growing to become a resource person, so we will not always be at the other side of the mic interviewing others. As we grow in the profession, you become someone that sits to provide insights and serve as a resource person. So I'm taking that away. Now I want us to get down to the book Command Your Stage. What motivated you to writing this book, Ma?
Well, it seemed a natural progression from the two I had already written. I had written about pronunciation, and pronunciation is one of the major elements in public speaking. So I thought that the best thing to do was to capture my experiences over the years, and also knowledge, knowledge, new ideas, so that people who are serious about presentation and public speaking will have a book that they can refer to, that would help them. So that's why I wrote it. I felt that a lot of public officials, a lot of even those in the private sector, people move into positions, they prepare the knowledge that they require to be able to
Yeah.
perform in those positions, the technical knowledge. But some of the other skills that are required at that level, which of which public speaking is one, they don't they don't often prepare. Sometimes they don't
Yeah.
think it is important. But
Mm,
when occasionally they find themselves in front of audiences and they embarrass themselves, that's when
mm.
they realize that they need to find someone or some way to help themselves. And so I thought this book would bridge that gap.
Yes, I saw there was a line there. I was trying to quote it, talking about just because you are in a position, I'm paraphrasing that you wrote, it will be foolish to have assume that the audience have to listen to you, just because you are the oga in the in an organization, or you're the leader somewhere. It will be foolish to think that people really owe you, that they really have to listen to you. And what will make people to listen to you or pay attention is to come up like someone that knows what he or she is saying. You come prepared, and you know how to engage your audience.
Yes.
Those are some of the things I'm gleaning and taking away. So where can we, get this book
In,
for anyone who wants to get a copy? Yeah.
yes, in Ibadan, you can get it from booksellers, and booksellers are also in Abuja and Lagos. Then Roving Heights is another bookstore. They are in Abuja and they are in Lagos. And you can get it on Amazon. You can get it, you can get the e-version of it on Seller. And you can get the physical copy also at the shop that is owned by the publishers of the book, that which is Koramo Publishing. And they have a bookshop, the Simi Johnson Center in Victoria Island. So those are the places where the books are available.
Nice. I really want to thank you, Ma, for sharing this book with the world. For me, it's some things should not just go with the thought holder or with that one person that God has endowed it with. I think this is sort of like a legacy kind of book, and I would also recommend it for colleagues in the industry and anyone who wants to do well in public speaking. And again, these days there's hardly anything you do that you are not owning up a stage. Social media has become a stage for everybody.
Yes,
Everybody, every
yes,
Dick and Harry.
you're right, you're right. I
So
think it could help young people too. Lots of
yeah,
young people, those who are, even those in the university, people um, who are aspiring to greater things,
yeah,
and want to learn about some of the soft skills that they need, because everything is not all about academics. The academics
yeah.
are fine, but there are soft skills that you also need to have, so that the knowledge that you have is not ignored.
Yes, yes. And these days, a certificate that is not laced with soft skill may not take you far. I mean, the soft skills seems to be the ones in the marketplace now. So, of course, while you need your certificate, you must acquire soft skills. Very, 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 very important. And which brings me, as we draw close to this conversation, what will be your legacy? What kind of legacy would you want to be leaving behind as a thought leader, as someone that a lot of people look up to, and then perhaps even for the media industry space? What would your legacy be like? The kind of legacy you like to leave?
Well, I would say that the legacy is already being was already being created.
Yeah.
Having written 3 books, um, I am training people who are within our industry and our space. I might write another one. I'm not sure yet.
Nice. Nice.
Um, and of course, I also have children who are in this space. So that is
Nice.
that's part of the that's part of the legacy. But
Yeah.
I think beyond that, it is it is for people to understand that whatever they are doing, especially within this space, um, they should bring something extra, something. It may not always be new, but it could be
Mm.
or produced in a different way because, as they
Yeah.
say, there's nothing new under the sun. But
Yeah.
I, I would love people to be creative within this space, to be creative, to be sincere with it,
Yeah.
because you when you're in the media, um, in some ways the media does a lot for you. It opens quite
Yes.
a lot of doors for you. I would want people who are within this space to also think about the doors that they can open for other people.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
and part of the opening of those doors is as a result of the way you perform your job. Because,
Yes. Yeah.
if, for instance, you come to me and you ask me for some help, or you ask me to introduce you to someone, if I am respected and my opinions are respected, and you happen to be the kind of person that is not a good reflection of what I stand for, and I introduce,
Yes.
several things are going to go wrong.
Mm.
First of all, you will not be taken seriously.
Yeah.
You will also be castigated for not representing me properly. Then
Yeah.
I also will not that I will not be taken seriously, but there will be a question mark. Will that person come back to me again and say, "Oh, can you recommend somebody
Recommend
for me?"
someone. Yeah.
Because they'll be thinking about the person that I sent before and how that person was a non-starter, a non-performer. Then
Mm.
what is the guarantee that I'm going to send someone that's better?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if you're coming into this business, if you're coming into this industry, you need to come in with a, I know it sounds ridiculous, but I will use the language. You need to come in with pure intentions. You
Yeah.
need,
No,
you
no,
need to
it is
come in,
important.
you need to come in knowing that you have something to offer. You also have some gains to make, but then you also have to hand over or hand down something.
Yeah.
You can't just pass through without making any mark.
Yeah.
It's you just be wasting your time and the time of others.
Yeah. I mean, it all boils down to making an impact. Show up like someone that knows what you're doing. Honesty, integrity, really have something you are giving, be that go-to person that people can say, oh, this person brings in a lot of value. And I really, really appreciate, your thought line on this, so that when people recommend you, you will not put them in bad light, and as well put yourself in bad light. Thank you so much for the legacy that you have, that you are handing down, and you are still going to hand down. I hope you do write that book you have in mind. Please go ahead and write it. And I would like to end with this question: how have you been able to stay so beautiful and just delectable? As in 70, you don't look it beyond that. Your hair is gray, but even the gray is stylish. So, what's your secret to, healthy life, looking good, even as you age? Really?
I think you have to have peace of mind,
Mm,
and that peace of mind is predicated to a large extent on making peace between you and your God.
mm, mm.
That's number one. Number two is eating in a healthy style, being involved in some sort of exercise on a regular basis. I think it's very,
Yeah,
very important.
important.
And and really enjoying what you do. Because if you
Mm,
hate what you're doing, there is no way that you will, it will show. If you love what you do, people will see that you do. And if you hate
yeah,
what it is equally going to be visible. So I don't believe in as much as we know that life has challenges, and it is for us to find our own way to overcome those challenges. But at the same time, I don't think that we should put ourselves into the kind of box where you are doing something or you're forced to do something that you really have no interest in. There is no
yeah,
way you will have a you will not have a light heart, you will not have a light spirit, you will have no joy. You will just be trudging on a daily basis. And
yeah,
I think that's one of the fastest ways to age.
yeah. Doing what you don't love, feeling like
Doing
you're just
what you don't
you're
like.
just doing life for others, not really for yourself. You know,
Yes, yes,
I,
yes.
I really celebrate you, ma'am. You look beautiful every time I see you. And I'm like, oh, I want to be like this at my age. I want to do better. I want to thank you so, so much. On a final note, what will be your parting word and short to our audience?
I think that life is really not as serious as we think it is.
Mm,
When I say that we must have this and we must do that and we must go here and we must know them, I don't think that those things are as important as we make them out to be. I
mm,
think when we struggle to attain all those things, we lose the essence. We lose the essence of simple enjoyment. We
yeah,
we lose the essence of tapping into grace that is made available to us. The idea of comparing yourself with other people is a pressure that is so totally unnecessary. It's a pressure
yeah,
that people subject themselves to and drive themselves crazy because they feel they must be like A, B, or C.
mm,
And it's impossible because
yeah,
you can never be in the same situation as A, B, or C. You can never be in the same, you can never have exactly the same opportunity. You can never have exactly the same friends. You can never come from exactly the same family. I mean, everything is different. And we are
yeah,
all individuals. Rather than trying to be a copy of somebody else, why not spend more time developing yourself to be a more unique you. I
Yeah.
think there's more value in being uniquely you than being a copycat of somebody else. The pressure is too much. It's not worth it.
Thank you so much. Just be you. My takeaway is be you.
Mhm.
The things that we think are important are not that important. Don't take life too seriously. Enjoy yourself, enjoy your life, and just don't compare. Just do your life. Do your life and enjoy the ride. I want to thank you so much for sparing this time out of your busy schedule to show up for us on Media Talks. And I really celebrate you and I'm honored. I do this show not for anything. It just occurred to me that there is a gap in the media space, in the media industry, in terms of mentorship and people really knowing that there is more to the job than just being the four walls of your organization, your TV, your radio. And I've been
Mhm.
pushing it. I just push it. I started this last year and I just been pushing it, getting one guest after another, in the hope that,
Mm.
just like you said, one can at least, open the door for colleagues or anyone wanting to do better in their career with the little exposure one has had, and then just bringing everyone together to learn. So I feel so honored, and I celebrate you, ma'am, for
Thank you
who
so
you
much.
are, what you're doing, and the legacy that you're leaving, behind for us. You are building and leaving behind for those coming after you. I really, really wish you well. I wish you more strength, more grace, and I pray that you will reap even more of the rewards of the seeds you've sown. Because again, you may feel you have finished reaping it. No, um, permit me. I'm a person of faith. Even in your old age, he said, "I will carry you." I like to go in
Mm.
that direction, and I believe that God will do so much more for you, even now that you are 70. A lot more can still
Yeah.
happen for you. Thank you so much, Ma, and God bless you. Really, really good. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you very much, Debisi. I'm not sure whether do you want to be called Adebisi or Bisi or Debisi. I don't know which one you prefer, but let's say all of the above.
Sincerely, anyone.
Okay, okay. Well, thank you very much. I've enjoyed our conversation, and I think, in fact, if more people um, struck out in this way, I'm sure a lot more of our colleagues, our younger colleagues, will be able to learn, pick up a few things here and there that will help them on their way. So I'm happy that I have been on this show, on this program, and thank you for inviting me.
Thank you so much for coming on the show again. And this is where we'll be wrapping it up on the show today, Media Talks. It has been a wow time together with our veteran, Mrs. Bimbo Oloyede. She has shared a lot from her wealth of experience, from her journey in the 70s up until where we are. And the interesting thing is that she has sustained relevance from the 70s when people like I were born and up until now. So, and that is the kind of legacy you should be thinking about, sustaining your relevance as a media professional. You should be thinking beyond, oh, let me just do this, let me just walk it through. You should enjoy what you do and think of achieving lasting impact and an enduring relevance and legacy, just like our guest. I hope to bring your way another interesting personality on the next episode. Until then, I am rooting for you. We are going to the top together and we will succeed together. Catch you next time. Bye bye.